back, everybody, to Set Ready Ball, a Jet Life podcast. Richie Flores, Big Noise, Beat Baseball, and my buddy AZ McLovin Martinez. How's it going, AZ?
Yo, what up, everybody? What's going on?
Yo, man, we had an episode 1, and already, AZ, not only do we have some listeners, but we have constructive feedback to improve future podcasts. And so I wanted to share some of those with you, and that will be our opening here before our featured presentation. Are you cool with some constructive feedback?
I am, and I definitely thank you guys for listening, and thank you for the feedback. And if there's any more you want to provide in the future after this show or the next show, go ahead and do that. We're open for that, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. And use a disclaimer that I'm learning this process. And you're somewhat of a mentor to me in this, and you're going to save me along the way. Most of the technical deficiencies are my fault, but we're moving forward. First, Slicky Rick from Cincinnati says, "Beat Baseball, what is that, and who are you guys, and why are you talking about it?" He stumbled, I guess, upon our podcast somehow, and was like, if this is supposed to be a intro to Beat Baseball, that's what I'm reading into this, is, we didn't tell people what Beat Baseball is. We could just kind of jumped in, I guess, and then who are we as far as beat ball analysts, I guess. AZ, do you want to give a little rundown of what you think? Let's answer his question. What do we think Beat Baseball is, and then who are you in this field?
I guess it's going to be the 4th year of being around Beat Baseball. It's a sport for the blind. Before we get into the breakdown, it is a national, actually an international sport. So it isn't like we just made it up here in San Antonio. We are part of an organization, the National Beat Baseball Association.
6 players on defense, on offense. The point of the game is to hit a ball out into the field and make it to a base, which is 100 feet away, which is probably one of the adaptive differences in the sport. And you're hitting a ball that is audible. And so both the defense and the offense can use it for point of reference.
So you do have 2 bases. You have only what would be the equivalent of first base and third base. As soon as you hit the ball, third base or first base could go off just one at a time, not both. But once that one goes off, whichever base that is, you run to that base. And if you get there before the defense picks up the ball, you score a run.
Yep, and if the defense locates the ball prior to you reaching base, called a put out, or just marked down as an out. You can also strike out. There are 4 strikes in Beat Baseball. That's another difference. In addition to the 100-foot base run, you have 4 strikes, and you can only take 1 ball. So a full count in Beat Baseball is 3 strikes and 1 ball. As AZ mentioned, the electronics to the bases also provide a tone, which is different than a beep, if we talk about differences.
Right? I mean, you say the bases buzz, the ball beeps. We do have sighted individuals who are part of the team as well. Your pitchers on your team, and so is your catcher. They're trying to make it so you hit the ball. And on defense, you have what we call spotters, and those are the ones that are on the field with you, along with the 6 defenders. They're there to call, they're spotters. They're there to call specific numbers that are referenced to specific spots on the field. When a particular number is called, that allows you to move to that particular area of the field.
In the rule book, we can only call out a 1 through a 6, and those are the only words that a spotter can say after a ball is hit into the field of play. And so it's kind of up to each defensive strategy and each team to come up with what zones mark a 1 or a 6. Very kind of intricate defenses like ours and like the defenses that are at the top of the league take those 6 numbers and split the field up into 2, and so then you have a 6 or a 1 on either right field or left field, so you have almost 11 zones that you can play with instead of just 5 or 6. That's kind of a cool adaptation on both sides, where you have a sighted pitcher slow pitching you a ball The point is for you to hit it, and then the point is for you to use the zone call as at least a point of reference for the team to know where the ball has been hit, but also so that there isn't any collisions.
So the other question of that Slick Rick from Cincinnati had, introduce yourself, man. Like, how did you come about into beat baseball? How did you get to being a Jet?
Well, how did I get to being a Jet? Well, first and foremost, I found beat baseball in 2005 when I moved to Austin. Met Adam Rodenbeck, who plays with the Indianapolis Thunder now, but he was playing with Austin then, and basically was having a beer with him. And he said, "Man, I bet you would like beat baseball." And he'd been playing for 2 or 3 years, and I had never lived in a city where I was able to attend a practice. I hadn't heard much about it other than in college. Our current president of the NBBA, Blake Boudreaux, was a couple years behind me in college. He talked to me about beat baseball in college, saying, I have a team in Houston, you should come and check it out. And I never took him up on the offer. I had to, I was in College Station, so that's a 90-minute drive to get to Houston. And back then they were practicing on like a Thursday night or something. I was like, I don't know how I can get down there. It wasn't till I moved to Austin where there was an actual team in the city, and I went, and it was pretty natural for me. I'd always liked sports. I've always prided myself in at least feeling like if I had hand-eye coordination, if I had eyes, maybe I feel like I'd be pretty good at it. Even when as a kid, I would try to juggle things, like throw things back and forth, like from hand to hand, and try to catch things and throw it up. Use my hearing to locate balls that are kind of rolling in the grass and bouncing and things like that. So I had some familiarity to at least being outdoors and playing a little bit of sports. But yeah, having a loud beeping ball was easier to find than a basketball being bounced towards you out of nowhere. I took to it really quickly. I made some good friends, of course. Austin Blackhawks are a dynasty team. Kevin Simpson is the pitcher, and at that point had already been playing for 25 years. And his brother Wayne Simpson is still the captain of that team. And they run a tight ship out there in Austin, and I was fortunate to find them and become part of that team. Played with them for 10 years. In doing that, I've done a lot of work with youth growing up and working in that field with blind youth. And beat baseball was something I took kids to. And one of those kids happened to be Axel Cox and Zach Arambula when they were in their teens. And that's kind of when I feel like I started being a part of helping the team grow and helping the sport grow, and took to that kind of leadership. And when Austin won their second championship in a row, and Kevin Simpson had moved to San Antonio, and he was kind of tired of just showing up to the World Series and winning championships, he wanted a challenge. And
I don't know how you can get tired of that, but after 9, maybe.
Exactly. Yeah, after 9 titles, I guess he's a little tired, and 2 in a row. And he decided to say, hey, I'm going to try to start a team with my wife's side of the family. He already started one with his brother. And Austin has a good thing going. And he was like, I want to try something in San Antonio. He definitely invited Zach and Axel because they live there. He used to drive them into practice in Austin every week. Axel and Zach, I follow them around. So I pretty much begged to be on the San Antonio Jets. And Axel said, well, I mean, if nobody else will take you, I guess we'll pick you up on the waivers. So, and so they did. No, I because I'm friends with them, I was one of the first people. They said, hey, why don't you come and join us, and then let's see if you can help us find some people to create that team. And I've known you for a little while. And how did it feel when you found out that there was a beat baseball team coming to San Antonio?
I was excited. I had known about it for a while, but like you, I wasn't close enough to go to a practice, to go and experience it. And I was playing go ball at that time and doing that. And really getting excited with the adapted sports for the blind, just getting out there and doing stuff. And when I found out in 2015 that the Jets are coming here, You were the one that actually told me about it, and that's how I came into this. It wasn't as easy as a transition as I liked it to be. Like for myself, I'm just very hard on myself all the time, and always want to get it right away. And that wasn't what was gonna happen here. Not playing sports when I was younger, like baseball and things like that. Not actually learning how to swing a bat. I hadn't done that. As far as my swing is concerned, like I always thank Ricky Rosica. He's the one that taught me really, and took the time to really show me and allow, kind of give me some tips, and then allow me to develop my swing. And the fielding was a whole nother story, because it's like you have to hit the ground. There isn't no, oh, I don't want to get dirty or anything like that. You have to go down, at any time. So, but it was definitely a lot of fun to get to know all the Jets. As far as the leadership, as far as where I kind of branched off, has been with the little Jets that we've started here in San Antonio. And we sat down a couple of years ago, and we were talking about how to continue to grow the team. And Kevin brought up the idea as like we should do this, and he put me in charge of that, and we kind of went forward with that. And it's always a team effort, things that we do here, because we could definitely, without Kevin, I don't, we can't do that much. He loves beat ball, and that definitely transfers onto us, because it's how passionate that he is. It gets you motivated to do more.
Yeah, I mean, I think people are fortunate to, number one, when you find beat baseball, but then if you're lucky enough to find beat baseball with, someone who's been around it so long, like Kevin Simpson, who has been playing beat baseball since he was a teenager. He's one of the most interesting sighted friends that I think I have, because if you were to ask him what's your favorite sport, he probably would say football, beat baseball, and boxing. But maybe beat baseball and boxing might be tied, but as far as like playing and being a competitor, he'll put beat baseball right at the top of competitive sports in his book as a cited pitcher in this league and coach now. Well, man, okay, so hopefully Slick Rick from Cincinnati, you know what beat baseball is now, and we hope that you keep listening and giving us your feedback. We really appreciate that, and I hope you know a little bit more about AZ and I as far as it relates to our involvement with beat baseball. So, you want to hear what Zebra 2020 said?
Let's hear it. Zebra 2020. I like the name.
Zebra 2020. I know we have some interesting names for the people who listen to us. It's kind of weird. He said, "I love listening to podcasts, mostly because it's a way for us to find some controversy in the world. Joe Rogan is my favorite podcaster. How do you guys measure up? So far, it's hashtag the lullabies of sports talk." Wow, we're not controversial enough, AZ.
Apparently. Well, you know what? I want, what is it? Zebra 2020? I want you to keep listening. I want you to give us a chance, because we're going to bring somebody who's controversial, baby.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the important thing for people to learn is we want people to know what jet life is. And jet life is sometimes a little edgy. Yeah, a little edgy, a little controversial, a little against the grain, a little different. And that's one thing we want to bring to our podcast. Already, the podcast is different because it's about beat baseball, of course. But then it's also about folks in San Antonio. But we will be bringing, controversial stories, hopefully things that get you guys laughing or thinking different, but mainly surrounding around beat baseball. We might get that started today. We have this guest usually can rattle some feathers, if you will. So we'll see how that works. So it's coming, Zebra 2020. Lastly, it was just a quick minor correction, and this is somebody who kind of knows us, I guess, who's, we knew our family would listen. Daddy Smooth wrote in and said, one correction, Daddy Smooth. I wonder which one of our friends this is, but he said, one correction, it's actually a home run derby, not the longest ball competition. It's a home run derby. It was switched at the last minute. We didn't get the memo, and he's sorry about that. Yeah, we didn't get that. So it is a home run derby. Now it's basically if it travels 75 feet in the air, you get a point. And you try to do that as many times as you can. If you miss a ball, it's a strike or an out. You get 5 outs again. It's the same. That's the same. We had that. But now it's basically who can hit the most pop-ups at 75 feet without striking out. And that was pretty much it from our folks giving us some constructive feedback, so not too bad. I want to just also reiterate, too, that our audience, our hope is folks on the Beat Ball Nation Facebook group. We have over 800 people subscribed to that. And so those are Beat Baseball fans. And so that's who our target audience is. Our second mission is definitely to elevate public relations for the San Antonio Jets. You know, just have something in addition to our Twitter, our Facebook, our newsletter, our website. And lastly, to emphasize the Jet Life philosophy. AZ, we have our first guest. Not only is he a sponsor of the San Antonio Jets, but he's also a longtime player. He's been playing longer than me, and that's pretty long. He wears number 50 for us, so you probably already know who that is by me saying that. He's our first out-of-town Jet. You know, I was considered, you know, out of town a little bit, but when I helped start the Jets with Axel and Kevin and Zach, and I was from Austin, so I was the greater San Antonio area. We knew that we were going to need some help. We needed to have a few more veterans on the team, and the first person that came to mind was Mr. David Benny. Most Beat Baseball world knows him as DB. We know DB. I think his second year as a Jet, he tried to run for president, and he always, you know, if you follow him anywhere on, I don't know who showed this guy Facebook, but he came to it pretty late, but he's really good at it. Before he came to the Jets, he didn't even have a Facebook page. So it was after he joined the Jets, he brought that into his world, and he's actually pretty good at it. Some people don't like to read what he writes, and some people don't like to hear what he says, but most people, sometimes when they do hear and read what he says, always have something to say back. You know, I think that's as controversial as any of the Jets on this team are, and so he's going to be a contributor to the Jet Life podcast. He's our traveling correspondent, our legal consultant, if you will, as well. David Benny is a lawyer by trade. Again, we mentioned that technology, you know, other than Facebook, he uses a computer and all that stuff. I'm sure he files all these briefs, but he isn't really into getting onto Gold Wave with us or Zoom or Skype. He said, you know what, if you want to talk to me, yeah, microphone. He doesn't own one of those. He's like, I'll call you on the phone. So basically, anytime we need to talk to him, we get him on his good old iPhone. I even asked him if he's done FaceTime audio so we can get better audio, and he was like, what the hell is that? And so I had a little FaceTime audio lesson with DB, and we're going to listen to some of our conversation today on this podcast, and he's going to go over his trip to the National Beat Baseball Association board meeting and talk to us about some of the controversial topics that came up. And then after that, we may talk about some of his other things that he has opinions on.
Yeah, man, that sounds great. Let's hear what DB's got to say.
Due to some violent content, parental discretion is advised.
Set Ready Ball, the Jet Life podcast, and we have our first guest, and it's the watchdog of the National Beat Baseball Association, Mr. David Benny, number 50 of the San Antonio Jets. DB, how's it going, DB?
How's it going tonight? I'm fine out here, Richie, and windy Southern Illinois.
Windy sure sounds like Illinois. I want to know what it sounded like or felt like in Tulsa, Oklahoma, after you attended another spring board meeting by the National Beat Baseball Association. I want to have a conversation with you about anything controversial, juicy, cool initiatives that NBBA is bringing around the bend here and that Beat Baseball Nation would like to know. First and foremost, what you think of the hotel?
Okay, yeah, so we were down in Tulsa, Oklahoma last weekend of the 8th, 9th, and the 10th, and the NBBA, National Beat Baseball Association, had its annual spring board meetings at the Renaissance Hotel in Tulsa, which is going to be the host hotel for the World Series this year. I got down on Thursday evening, and the first thing I noticed, and anybody staying at the host hotel who's blind or visually impaired should know, there are automatic revolving doors at the front of the hotel. So they revolve, and they revolve based on a motion sensor. So if you have a service animal, you're going to want to be mindful. And if you're a cane traveler and you're not expecting it, you better have the timing down just right, because that thing is swinging. Now, there's doors on either side of that are stationary, that are push-pull, that you can just go in. But that was one of the first things I noticed. The hotel is nice. The restaurant's decent. Drinks are reasonably priced.
That's great to know, man. Reasonably priced drinks and a decent hotel. We'll look out for the spinning doors. But Friday usually isn't that the tournament committee? What happened then?
The most significant item that came out of that meeting was that the tournament committee, by a 3-2 vote, voted to change the seating format for seating and bracketing teams at the World Series. In the past, they have done it based on the rank of the teams in the tournament from the year before, and then added teams that didn't compete in the previous national tournament to the end, and tacked them on and seeded them that way. Now they're going to do it by committee, with any team that's been to 3 World Series straight or 3 of the last 5 World Series all getting a delegate to vote based on seeds, sort of like how the NCAA does its selection committee for March Madness. And they're going to have meetings, and it's sort of a subjective system, but I'm not as pessimistic as some. I want to see how it works. It's meant to make at least the early stages of the tournament more competitive. I don't think it's going to change who makes it to the semifinals or the championship game. You got to play every team anyway. But it's going to. The idea is to have more evenly matched brackets, and they think we can do it through human collaboration versus using the World Series rankings from previous years. And so they're moving toward doing that.
So for a point of reference, who serves on the NBBA tournament committee?
Sure. The voting members of the tournament committee that I saw on Friday were President Blake Boudreau, president of the NBBA and Bayou City Heat. Jan Trapphagen's the first vice president, and by nature of that office, she's the chair, so she wouldn't have a vote unless there was a tie.
Okay.
But she's the chair of that committee. So the voting members, though, were Blake Boudreau, Shannon Leonard, Steve Guerra, who's the secretary of the NBBA, right. Kathy Quinn, and who's an NBBA board member, and treasurer John Lykowski.
So that's 2 players and 3 volunteers, 4 if you count Jan Trapphagen. So it was 3-2 in favor. So how did the vote shake out? Are you able to share with the Beatball Nation?
Predictably, Kathy and Janet, some of the very old-timer sort of members and traditionalists, I would say, voted against the change. Oh. Blake Boudreau and Steve Guerra voted in favor. John Lykowski voted in favor, and he was the third vote.
Okay, so the players were 4, and then our longtime volunteers, Janet and Kathy, didn't want to change something that probably they are thinking isn't broken. Love to know what brought John Lakowski to the new seating process.
I wasn't sure how John was going to go on that. John's a practical, very wise. He's been around as long as anybody on the executive committee, and so it was my interest was sort of in seeing where he came down. But he came down on trying it out. Jerry Wendell presented the proposal, and if it doesn't work, the seating for the tournaments at the World Series is totally up to the tournament committee. It's not a bylaw. It's not a board decision. So if it doesn't work, it's very easy. They can change it by a simple vote. If people don't like it, I've heard a lot of positive feedback and negative feedback on it. So we'll see what happens.
So what's your thoughts on why it was such a close vote?
I mean, it is subjective.
Yeah.
Now, instead of having an objective standard, for instance, if in previous years, if you knew what the rankings from the previous year's World Series were, and you knew who the new teams were, and the order of their registration for the tournament, you can pretty much draw out your own bracket. You can pretty much predict how it was going to go. Mm-hmm. Now it's subjective. Now it's based on human judgment and criteria, and so I think that was probably the thinking behind it, and I can't speak for the people that voted, but but that would be my thought. On the other hand, it does take, this new system will take into account, for instance, a team like Taiwan, who comes every other year. Traditionally, they sort of tend to alternate. They don't come to the World Series every year, and so if they show up a year after they didn't come, they would be stuck at the end of the seeding of the rankings, and they would be, and so oftentimes, and we know that they're a competitive team. Let's put it that way. They're one of the more elite teams when they show up. They end up in a bracket with another elite team, and it's sort of it can stack one of the brackets, and I think that there was sort of a pushback against that, and that's why the people who were pushing for the change did what they did.
Sounds good. New seating system. What else?
The only other interesting thing to come out of the tournament committee, it was very contentious and controversial, the bid for the 2020 World Series, next year's World Series. There was a big push from some league officials, including the president, who lives in East Texas, and his team is out of Houston, to have the World Series in Bryan College Station, about an hour outside of Houston. The committee, by a narrow vote, voted to have it in Ames, Iowa. We have recently learned that the fields that we had used in Ames, Iowa, the last two times we have been there in 2012 and 2016, will not be available. They're being renovated. Uh-oh. They won't be available for us to use in 2020. Now, I know Sean Damaris, I know the Ames people. I think that they will have good fields for us to use. I don't think that's going to be an issue. Right now, there is a question as to what facility we're going to use, because we can't use the facility right across the road from the Iowa State football facility where we've been playing. That's not going to be available to us. So that was an interesting bit of information, too, to come out of the tournament committee.
Let's move on to Saturday and the board meeting.
The spring board meeting started at 9 o'clock on that Saturday, the 9th, and it went pretty smoothly. Interesting items of note. NBBA teams will not be getting the Nubson grant this year. That's been suspended. Typically, in the past, the way that's worked, a certain percentage, 5% of the fund, would be divided up amongst teams at random, and I think they were given $1,000 thereabouts to teams at random with a stipulation that you couldn't, and I don't remember all this off the top of my head, but I don't think you could be selected 3 years in a row, and so forth. And it was just a little extra money to help teams get to the World Series. Well, that program has been suspended. The board voted to suspend that, so they are moving toward allocating those funds to new teams to help new teams get to the World Series.
Okay.
I heard a number like $2,500 per new team, but they have to have registered for the World Series, so they can't just take the money and run. They have to show up and they'll get the money. But established teams who were counting on getting their Nubson grant this year are probably going to be told by the league in short order, if they haven't already, not to expect those. It's been tabled to at least after July 1st.
I think I'm in favor of supporting new teams. We have a really new team in Southern California right now that could definitely use some of the economic support. And so I'm for this change. Anything else?
Let's see. Interesting little piece of business. The Outreach and Diversity Projects Committees have been very busy. There was some things that the board, programs that they authorized for diversity projects. I know Jamie Simpson, one of the board members, Austin Blackhawk, will be heading down to Argentina. I believe that's in November, along with several Austin Blackhawks, with the help of Sports Vision 2020, their sponsor, to try to get some beat ball going down in Argentina. Also, there will be several youth program events that the NBBA will be supporting. One I know is in New Jersey. One is in Minnesota. I don't recall the dates of those off the top of my head. And, of course, we've got a project that you've been working on, Richie, that's going to be happening in Las Vegas in collaboration with the NFB. And the NBBA is going to be supporting that by sending us a picture. And if that's who I think it is, I think we'll be getting a spot or two. And so we're going to get some help with that event in Las Vegas with the Parents of Blind Children division of the NFB.
Wasn't that something? Big kudos to the Diversity and Projects Committee. That's Jamie Simpson and Justin Romack, who are leading those groups, and they have a great committee underneath them with good ideas. We are going to Argentina with the leadership of Mariano Reynoso from the Austin Blackhawks, a proud Argentinian who lost his sight in Argentina and played baseball out there as a kid, so I'm sure he's looking forward to that. Nestor Gonzalez out of New Jersey and that group out there in Minnesota have some really cool plans for the youngins. And lastly, I don't know how diverse you can get or how much outreach you can actually get without including the National Federation of the Blind. You know, there's going to be 3,000 people at this convention in Las Vegas this July. It's my plan to gather up some of my friends who play beat baseball and who also attend convention, and we're going to have a demonstration game against the Las Vegas 2020, who's a new team to the National Beat Baseball Association. We'll welcome a crowd from the Parents of Blind Children, an audience of youth, and the sports and rec enthusiasts, blind veterans, anybody who wants to come out and check out beat baseball, get their hands on a beat baseball, run a base, swing a bat. We're going to have a professional beat baseball pitcher there who's used to hitting blind people's bats, meeting people where they're at, and you'll get to watch a competitive beat baseball game. Good job, board. I'm proud of that. And that's where we're going to leave it for today. We will be back on our next podcast, continuing a conversation with DB. It'll get a little bit more controversial. He's going to talk about National Beat Baseball Association elections, and he'll introduce his top 10, his 2019 David Benny top 10 beat baseball teams of the National Beat Baseball Association.
Before we get to our sponsors, shout out to Double A all day. Thank you to our sponsors. Thank you to our silver sponsor, SA Founders Lions Club. Our bronze sponsor, San Antonio Area Family Lions Club. Team partner, Law Office of Carlos Molinar. Team friend, President Ruben Silva and members of Amalgamated Transit Union, President Juan Amaya, and members of Amalgamated Transit Union. Single sponsors: Lupe Alaman, Law Office of Tina Torres, Juan Amaya, Attorney Andrew Skimp, Andres Gonzalez, Norma Trejo Martinez, Belinda Martinez, Lydia Solis. We are grateful for all our sponsors and ask you to please continue to support us with our various fundraiser activities. Thank you very much.